And we're going to start this morning off with breaking news, taking a look at a story out of Brooklyn this morning. A police-involved shooting ending with one person being shot.
Yeah, this happened in Williamsburg just after 4:30 this morning. Pix 11's Anthony DiLorenzo joins us live from the scene with the very latest. Anthony.
Guys, dangerous situation here in the early morning hours. You can see right here behind me that police have the area right off the BQE shut down. We want to take you into that gray sedan right there. That is an officer's vehicle that we believe was involved in all of this. They opened fire on a vehicle they say was possibly involved in a drag racing incident around 4:30 this morning. Take a look at the video from a little bit earlier where you can see more activity here at this intersection near Cherry Street and Vandervoort. According to police, it was around 4:30 when they saw two vehicles that appeared to be racing one another. As they attempted to pull over at least one of them, that is when they say the car sped toward the officers, who they say that they were then forced to open fire on the people inside of that car. At least one person was struck by the officers' gunfire and apparently drove himself to an area hospital where he is being treated for non-life-threatening injuries. And all of this chaos, two of the officers, we are told by police, also suffered injuries, both to their hand and possibly a leg when they were maybe hit by this vehicle. All of these details are still preliminary and under investigation. We're expecting an update from the NYPD in just about a half hour from now, when we expect to learn a little bit more about what transpired here a few hours ago. But if you are in this immediate area here in Greenpoint, know that traffic is impacted by this ongoing investigation. We're live in Brooklyn. I'm Anthony DiLorenzo, Pix 11 News.
Anthony, thank you for staying on top of that. Wild times in Williamsburg. Meanwhile, 21 years ago today, the world watching in horror and sadness as one of the biggest tragedy of this generation happened in our midst. This morning, the Tri-State coming together to honor the victims of 9/11. We have team coverage.
Plus, the last goodbye to Queen Elizabeth II. Right now, a hearse carrying the late monarch's coffin on a journey to Edinburgh. We have a live report from the UK.
And the end of a week-long battle. Neighbors at the Jacob Reese houses getting the all clear to drink their water after botched test results falsely found high levels of arsenic. The Pix 11 Weekend Morning News starts right now.
Live from 42nd and 2nd, this is New York's very own Pix 11 Morning News.
Good morning, everyone. It is Sunday, September 11th, 8 o'clock, 73 degrees outside. We thank you for starting your day with us. I'm John Muller.
And I'm Kirsten Cole. It is a day when many of us will be taking part in some sort of remembrance, either gathering with friends and family in our community, or some of us will just silently do that at home. We want to tell you what the weather is going to be like. We have meteorologist Star Harvey here. We're definitely going to be working around some rain today.
Yeah, you know, we are. I do have an umbrella alert for today. We're starting off this morning. We do have a peak of sunshine here behind me, probably the most sunshine that we will get out of the day here. We're expecting to see some showers move across the area earlier this morning, but the second half of the day is when we really start to see things pick up. As we take a look at our satellite and radar, most of these showers happening to the west and north of the city. I'm going to zoom us in right now just to give you a look, you know, if you had plans on heading down to the southern edge of Manhattan there. Notice that we do have a few sprinkles brushing across some of the area, but most of that rain, again, going through the Queens and Brooklyn area. So continuing to keep an eye on that for you this morning. Currently, we are in the 60s, some 70s on the map as well, 73 in the city. Bridgeport coming in at 71, and Princeton 69 degrees. As we take a look at where we were just 24 hours ago, our temperatures were slightly cooler. We're going to see that we're about 6 degrees warmer in the city, 9 degrees warmer in Sussex. Our dew points increasing from yesterday as well. I'm going to say not too bad, however. Still in that 60 range. We do have some upper 60s along Long Island. Our temperatures increasing to the 76 mark today, so slightly below our normals. Showers developing as we move into the second half of our day. Of course, I'll have all those details and more in our 7-day forecast. Back to you.
Star, thank you. All right, September 11th, 2001. It is a day we have all vowed to never forget. This morning, the tri-state, the country, come together in honor the nearly 3,000 people who were killed and the tens of thousands hurt in that terrorist attack.
We have team coverage for you this morning. Amy Yensi is in Lower Manhattan with the security plans for today's ceremony. But we begin with Rebecca Solomon at the World Trade Center Memorial. Good morning to you, Rebecca.
Kirsten and John, good morning. Certainly is a very solemn morning here at the Memorial Plaza. We've been here all morning long, where we can tell you absolutely security is extremely tight this morning as family members of the victims gather here in Memorial Plaza once again to commemorate 21 years since this tragedy totally changed our lives. You can see the law enforcement officers out here. Of course, there's wreaths and flags and the memorials that are set up around the area, but certainly it is a very difficult day for so many people who've been making their way out to Memorial Plaza to commemorate yet another year. Now, we are joined with someone this morning, Alice Greenwald. She's the 9/11 Memorial and Museum President and CEO. Alice, thanks for being with us this morning. We know how difficult this is every year, and for you, you've been doing this for quite some time. So what's it like year after year coming back out here and remembering this tragic day?
Well, because we do it every year, it only reinforces the sense of commitment to the promise we made never to forget. It has been 21 years, and yet we come, the families come, we take a day out of our lives to do nothing more than remember those who were so unjustly killed. But there's a very interesting transition that we've been observing for the last several years, which is during the heart of our ceremony, which is the reading of all of the names, nearly 3,000 names. It takes about 4 to 4.5 hours. Increasingly, there are younger family members who are reading the names of grandparents, aunts and uncles they may never have known.
And that's the interesting thing, because yes, we're here 21 years later, but it's about never forgetting and making sure that these younger generations of victims continue to remember, and that people around the country and continue to remember this historic day in history. Why do you think that's so important to make sure that this message continues?
Well, I think, first of all, we made a promise. And you want to keep that promise. We would never forget. And this is a generation, there's an estimate that it's upwards of 100 million people who've been born in the United States since 2001. So this is a large number of Americans, not to mention the rest of the global community, who don't have a lived memory of that day. And they are living in a century that in so many ways started with this event. This was the first major catastrophe of the 21st century. And to understand the world we live in, you have to understand where it started. So I think there are history lessons to be learned, but there are also human lessons to be learned. 9/11 was indescribably terrible. 2,977 people were unjustly killed in an act of horrendous terrorism and mass murder. In reaction to the unthinkable, we came together as a community. We came together as a nation, as a global community. And there was a sense of compassion, of unity, of service. What can I do? How can I help? Everyone who lived at that moment knows what I'm talking about. And we need this next generation to know about that you can be unified and you can be resilient and you can find hope, but you got to do it together.
I love that, Alice. Thank you so much for taking time to speak with us so much. I appreciate it. Good luck today with all of the commemorations. Certainly a wonderful message to live by. Also the resiliency of so many people who came together here at Ground Zero to make sure that we remember those innocent lives lost, and also remembering those first responders and the people that came around from the tri-state area here to lend a helping hand. I spoke with several of the victims' families. We're going to be putting together something a little bit later on Pix 11, so make sure you stick around all day today as we'll continue to follow this story here. We're live at Memorial Plaza. I'm Rebecca Solomon, Pix 11 News.
And the story continuing with so many still struggling with health issues and losing their life since 9/11. Rebecca, thank you so much for focusing on all of that for us today.
All right, our team coverage continues now with Amy Yensi. She joins us live from Lower Manhattan with more on the safety plans for today's ceremonies. Amy.
Good morning. And to ensure that those ceremonies go off without a hitch, there is an intense amount of security here in Lower Manhattan. Let me just show you what I'm talking about. This area is actually in some ways impenetrable. You can see that there are officers on guard. There are streets that are blocked. I can tell you that tunnels are closed leading to Manhattan. I saw patrol cars on the way here stationed at the bridge, the Brooklyn Bridge, just to make sure that this feels safe for all New Yorkers. Some streets are off limits. They are closed. And there is a total calm in Lower Manhattan. It's almost as if all of New York is taking the time to pause and remember the thousands of lives lost 21 years ago. That's what it's been, 21 years since September 11. And you would think that since the attacks happened so long ago, the tributes would slow down, but there is still the same amount of emotion. All weekend long, Pix 11 has been going to ceremonies across the region with family members and loved ones paying tribute to those lives lost. And Pix 11 will be in the area paying close attention to all the commemoration ceremonies in our area. We will bring them to you. For now, that's the latest from here, Lower Manhattan. Amy Yensi, Pix 11 News.
Amy, always seeing high security at these events because we know that this area continues to be a target even today. Thank you. And today's official service begins around 8:40. It's going to start with a bagpipe processional. It's followed by the national anthem. After that, family members will begin reading the names of all of those who perished in the 2001 attacks and the 1993 bombing.
Now we will also mark 6 moments of silence at 8:46. That's the time the first plane struck the North Tower. We'll have moments of silence also observed at 9:03 and 9:37. That's when the South Tower and the Pentagon were hit.
Other moments of silence will mark when both of those towers collapsed and when brave passengers took down Flight 93 over Shanksville, Pennsylvania. Our full coverage begins at 8:30 this morning.
All right, some other news this morning. A scary incident at the entrance to the Barnes & Noble store in Lower Manhattan. NYPD giving us this surveillance video. See if you recognize this man right here. Police say yesterday he took items totaling about $35 off a fixture, and then he attempted to leave the store without paying for them. Well, the man was confronted near the exit by store employees, and he ran out. But on his way out the door, he pushed a woman who was walking in. The force of that push sent that 77-year-old woman crashing to the floor. She hit her head on the ground and lost consciousness. She was taken to the hospital in stable condition. If you recognize the man, call Crime Stoppers.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams now says the water at the Jacob Riis houses in the East Village is safe to drink. He poured himself a glass as well, chugging down with one of those fellow residents. And he said he wouldn't ask anybody to do what he wouldn't do himself. This comes after frustrated residents had lived off of bottled water for 8 days. Late Friday night, the city making the announcement that there never was any arsenic in the drinking water. Instead, 2 sets of test results done out of state were botched, apparently, triggering that false alarm and so much fear.
Hard to know what the truth is. So I've been living here since '79, and it's always been lie after lie after lie over and over again.
City now saying it is exploring all legal options on behalf of the residents of the Riis houses for the misinformation and the costs incurred by that botched testing.
All right, well, the White House continues to encourage Americans to get the new COVID vaccine booster shot. They say it is the best way to fight new variants.
Federal health officials are urging all Americans 12 and up to get the booster before Halloween, saying that's going to provide maximum protection for the holiday season.
We're still seeing thousands of people get admitted to the hospital every day. We're seeing 400 to 500 people dying every day of this virus.
Now, Democrats are trying to get more than $22 billion added to the upcoming spending bill, and those funds, they will keep the vaccines free. But Americans may need insurance to cover the shot starting in January or even pay out of pocket. Not all Republicans are on board. The spending bill must be passed by October 1st to avoid a government shutdown.
At 8:11 now, up next, the last goodbye to Queen Elizabeth II. After the break, we're going to tell you about the funeral services planned for the monarch.
Plus, the plan to vaccinate raccoons against rabies in the 5 boroughs. We'll have details on that rollout coming up.
And we know it's a little rainy this morning, but if you're making plans to head out to the beach today, stay tuned. Staffing changes on the way. We're breaking that down coming up. Welcome back at 8:13 to the Pix 11 Morning News. This is our special Sunday edition of 9/11 coverage. You can see it's kind of a gray and rainy day out there today. We'll get to the weather in just a moment, but first we want to focus on the tributes to Queen Elizabeth II. A hearse carrying her oak coffin has left her beloved Balmoral Castle earlier today.
Yeah, the coffin of the late monarch, that is now on a 6-hour road journey to Edinburgh, Scotland. This is a live look from Buckingham Palace, where mourners spent days laying flowers and other tributes to honor the life and legacy of Queen Elizabeth II.
Lauren Lister joins us now live in front of Windsor Castle. And Lauren, the young royals, they made a rare appearance visiting the castle, talking to mourners there. And also it was somewhat of a coming together again and patching up what may have been some tensions within the royal family between the two brothers.
Yeah, Kirsten and John, and it was a surprise visit, and it happened just behind me at Windsor Castle. This is the front page of the Sunday paper here, a picture of the four of them reunited in sorrow. We also have some videos. So it was Prince William and Kate, Prince Harry and Meghan making this appearance in the area where people have been paying tribute to Queen Elizabeth II. Huge crowds yesterday that have been lining up to lay flowers and pay respects. And then the young royals showing up. They took in the scene, they took in the messages and the flowers, and they also shook hands with the mourners and had personal conversations with them. They spent 40 minutes there before leaving all together in one car that Prince William was driving. And according to Kensington Palace, Prince William invited Harry and Meghan, thinking that it was an important showing, an important thing to do. And this comes, of course, as there's been a highly publicized rift between the brothers, starting when Harry and Meghan left as working royals and moved to the United States. So, you know, the scene was very major for the people that were at Windsor Castle yesterday to witness it, and obviously front page news, huge photo here, and a big moment indeed.
No doubt. Lauren, today, of course, we mark 21 years since the September 11th attack here in New York. And the Queen's death, many of us remember how she honored victims after the terror attack.
Yeah, this anecdote has come up and very poignant on this anniversary of 9/11, the 21st anniversary. So right after the terror attack, the Queen broke with centuries-old tradition, having the American national anthem played during the changing of the guards at Buckingham Palace in London. And according to the Guardian newspaper at the time, 3,000 people gathered there, including hundreds of Americans, to listen to the Star-Spangled Banner play at, of course, such a difficult time for our country, the United States. Kirsten and John?
You know, it's reflections on what we're seeing right now here, united in tragedy and trying to do what we can as nations to comfort each other. Lauren Lister in Windsor, thank you so much for your coverage, and we'll be back with you as well.
Live from 42nd and 2nd, this is New York's very own Pix 11 Morning News.
Yeah, and a happy Sunday morning to you. This is one glorious day we've got on tap. It's June 5th. Thank you so much for joining us on the Pix 11 Weekend Morning News. I'm Kirsten Cole.
And I'm Craig Treadway, and you see it there. The incredible weekend continues. A glorious Sunday scheduled for us. Weather-wise, meteorologist Star Harvey is here with more on that.
Hey, what do you guys think about asking the bosses for an outdoor studio?
I think it's a great idea, but I think it would just go whoop.
Let's get outside today. It's going to be such a great one, Star.
Yes, you know, this weekend proves that. We had a beautiful end to our first official weekend in June, and you'll see that right now. Our temperatures coming in the 60s already in this 9 o'clock hour. At the park, that middle 60 mark, we do have some very similar temperatures in Flushing, Queens there. Bayonne, 69 degrees, and White Plains coming in at 64. You take in those temperatures, and our highs expected to get into the 70s throughout most of our area, and you mix that with our dew points sitting really low for today. We're going to see lots of 40s here across the board, lower 40s. We even see some 30s up in portions of Connecticut as well as along the island, which all in all for us means that it is going to be nice and crisp outdoors. None of that sticky feeling. Our highs for today expected to shoot for that mid to upper 70 mark. You'll see Central Park here coming in at 77 degrees. So it's right where we should be for this time of the year. Tonight, we're expecting to see mostly clear skies. Temperatures through Jersey in the 50s. Here in the city, we'll be at 63. Hudson Valley coming in the lower 50s as well. Now, we do have some rain on the way. I'll have all of those details coming up in your 7-day forecast. But for now, Kirsten and Craig, back to you.
All right, Star. Well, now to our top story this morning. It's an early rise for thousands of courageous people who woke up ready to celebrate the life and sacrifice of 9/11 heroes.
You know, during the pandemic, the Tunnel to Towers climb, like so many other things, had to be put on hold. Look at these athletes. The iconic challenge returns to One World Observatory. They could not be happier. Pix 11's Rebecca Solomon is live there now with more. Rebecca, it really is just like a celebration and a validation of everything.
Absolutely, Kristen and Craig, good morning. I admire each and every single one of those climbers. They're done with their challenge now. At this point, they're probably fueling up on a well-deserved breakfast, but it was just so amazing to see the participants back in action here as such a good cause continues. Really a symbolization of strength and hope and resiliency of the American spirit.
3, 2, 1.
A strenuous 2,226 stair climb begins as a 9/11 hero is honored.
Every step you think is difficult, and then that memory clicks in, and you go faster.
Participants in this year's Tunnel to Towers climb at One World Observatory are proud to embark on a 104-flight mission in memory of the men and women who lost their battle against 9/11.
What we did here today doesn't compare to what our responders, our firefighters, our police officers, everyone that takes care of the city and this country. What they do for us every day means so much.
After a 2-year hiatus, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation welcomes back active and retired first responders, injured vets, and 9/11 survivors from around the region. The foundation is dedicated to honoring the sacrifice of FDNY firefighter Stephen Siller, who laid down his life to save others on September 11, 2001. Stephen's brother, Frank Siller, is the CEO of Tunnel to Towers.
What's more iconic than this building in America, and to climb up the stairwell, because we know what those stairwells signify. The sacrifice that was made 20 years ago.
For more than 20 years, the foundation has supported the nation's first responders, veterans, and their families by providing these heroes and the families they leave behind with mortgage-free homes.
Our first mission at Tunnel to Towers is to make sure that we never forget and that we always honor the sacrifice.
A mission that lives on through the sweat, sore feet, and painful muscles of these brave souls.
I lived in New York for over a decade, and I think it's a great tribute to have this huge physical exertion as a way to remember the people we lost.
And by the end of this year, the foundation will deliver 1,000 mortgage-free homes to our nation's heroes and their families. We're live in Lower Manhattan. I'm Rebecca Solomon, Pix 11 News.
Certainly the most rewarding part,
It
right?
is so amazing what that foundation has done over the years since 9/11.
Beautiful tribute. Thank you, Rebecca.
All right. And, you know, not a bit of body fat on any of those people, but I'm not bitter at all.
Craig, there's still time, my friend.
Running out.
It's been more than a week, you know, since thieves broke into St. Augustine's Roman Catholic Church in Park Slope.
They actually got away with the church's 18-karat gold tabernacle, which was valued at $2 million. In addition to the theft, the thieves desecrated a statue. Now, for parishioners, it was not just a theft of property, but an attack on the dignity and sanctity of the church.
And so on Saturday, Robert Brennan, who's the Bishop of Brooklyn, led a special prayer service.
We're blessing the church, in a sense, restoring it to its dignity. We suffered a terrible loss, not only in property, but in terms of the desecration of the Blessed Sacrament, in terms of really an attack on our church. And so when something like that happens, we need to restore it to its dignity.
Well, parishioners at St. Augustine's are hopeful that the tabernacle will be recovered.
And at 9:05, a heartless thief preying on the elderly. Cops say this man in the red hooded sweatshirt swiped $1,000 in cash from this 79-year-old man you see here. It happened on Friday in the Kingsbridge section of the Bronx as the victim walks from a shopping plaza garage. The thief takes his Mark's wallet. It was stuffed with cash. If you recognize the man, please do call Crime Stoppers. And more breaking news out of Philadelphia now. 3 people are dead, 11 hurt after a shooting in an area of the downtown section of the city.
Now, police say hundreds of people were on South Street. That's a busy area of the city, especially on the weekends, when the gunfire rang out. You're looking at Citizen App video. Police exchanged shots with the gunman, but as of this morning, it's not clear if that person is one of the people shot. 2 weapons were recovered at the scene, and no one has been arrested so far.
Police say that the two men and a woman were shot multiple times. They died at the hospital.
Meanwhile, a 9-year-old girl has been released from a Texas hospital after being wounded in that mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde. University Hospital in San Antonio made that announcement. It also says that a 10-year-old girl is still in serious condition and a 66-year-old woman believed to be the shooter's grandmother is in good condition. 19 students and 2 teachers died in the massacre. Police are under fire for waiting outside the classroom for 45 minutes before entering to try and stop the shooter, all while terrified fourth graders called 911 for help from inside that classroom.
And at 9:06, there is actually a law in Texas that could make the investigation into the Uvalde mass shooting even harder. It's called the state's dead suspect loophole, and it lets police withhold information in closed criminal cases that don't go through the court process, even when a suspect dies in police custody. So this raises serious transparency concerns, as lawmakers and advocates are worrying police are going to use this to keep details about what really happened from the public and even from victims' families, especially in this case, in light of how law enforcement there has continued to change their narrative about what happened and when.
These records belong to the public. Government transparency is government transparency, even when it's not pretty.
Well, efforts to close the loophole failed in the last 3 legislative sessions. Texas state representatives are hopeful that they will pass legislation to end the loophole in 2023, so we don't know how it's going to impact this particular investigation.
Well, a potential legal setback for the parents of the accused Buffalo supermarket shooter. One of the 3 employees who survived wants the parents to be questioned under oath.
Documents filed on Friday in the state Supreme Court asking that the parents provide depositions by July 29th in anticipation of filing a lawsuit against them for what their son did. Filings also ask for evidence to be preserved. Shooter facing domestic terrorism charges, among others, related to the May 14th shooting. 10 people were killed. All of them were black.
And there is no consolation to the families who have lost loved ones to bullets.
So in honor of Gun Violence Awareness Month, they dressed in orange and rallied, hoping to end gun violence. Pix 11's Jen Bisram has this story from the South Street Seaport.
It's Gun Violence Awareness Month.
Keep schools safe. Keep schools safe.
And communities in New York and New Jersey are wearing orange to fight for a future free from gun violence.
My son lost his life playing with family.
DeVille Gardner lost his son Junior in July of 2020 in Brooklyn. His firstborn was just a year old.
Him and his mom, they were at a family cookout and they were waiting for their cab home. They thought it was their cab, turned out it was guys coming out and they just opened fire.
He spoke at a Unity in the community event at South Street Seaport.
Just to lose him is like a piece of me went with him.
At the family-friendly event, basketball was combined with the arts for the youth to enjoy while listening to local leaders and advocates.
These events, hopefully during Gun Violence Awareness Month, let folks know that we have to continue to talk about this, but my hope is that there's action behind this as well.
And in Foley Square, New Yorkers walked in solidarity in orange with survivors, calling for an end to all the senseless shootings. But according to the NYPD, shootings are overall down so far this year compared to the same time last year. The department credits its neighborhood safety teams that started hitting the streets in March.
It's sad now till it's like we're out and we're having family gatherings, everybody's looking over their shoulder because they don't know what could happen next. Like, you don't know what car somebody could jump out and start shooting.
Still, families who lost loved ones to stray bullets and continue to hear gunshots in their neighborhoods say it's not enough.
You're taking away loved ones from so many families. Like, I lost my son. There's a lot of people out here that's losing their kids at a young age too. So it's like, just stop.
Jennifer Bisram, Pix 11 News.
And the Gardner family also telling us that police did make an arrest in the shooting death of their child, but there are still so many families who are fighting for their own justice.
All right, up next, panic at the mall. A possible prank sending shoppers in the Bronx and Brooklyn running for the exits. We're going to tell you what authorities have said about the ongoing investigation.
And then more city officials pitching in different ways to fight gun violence. There's a new effort out of the Manhattan DA's office to reduce crime by using our youngest New Yorkers.
And why can't we just dance? Find out about the laws in effect in New York right now that make dancing illegal in some parts of the city and the move to let people get their groove on.
And new this hour, time for brunch. We're headed to Union Square to check in on the delicious food of Rosa Mexicano. We'll be right back.